climber and more daring soar to the wide summit of the triple stair. Bare steps climbed up like glowing rocks of gold, burning their way to pure absolute sky.
Good morning. We're reading in Book 2, the Book of the Traveler of the Worlds. We've come to Canto 10, Kingdoms and Godheads of the Little Mind. We're on page 254, just 10 lines down from the top. I'll just briefly review. Asapati has been traveling through many worlds, subtle worlds of the inner planes of consciousness, through all the life planes. He's entered into the planes of the mind. In the beginning of this canto, we were given an introduction to the nature of mind and how it serves as a link between the highest consciousness and the world of matter. Just a review of a few lines near the bottom of page 241, just 6 lines from the bottom. It says, even a greater miracle was done. The mediating light linked body's power, the sleep and dreaming of the tree and plant, the animal's vibrant sense, the thought in man, to the effulgence of a ray above. Its skill endorsing matter's right to think, cut sentient passages for the mind of flesh, and found a means for nescience to know. So in the beginning also then he traces the very first developments of the mind, even before kind of the human mind. It also is beginning to work in the life. And then on page 245, he begins this description of a dwarf three-bodied trinity, describing three different aspects of the mind. And in this world, kind of beings or regions of the mind planes that represent these three different aspects of the mind. One very physical, one vital, and one more intellectual. So we've come to his description of this more intellectual mind and the beings representing that. When he began introducing that on page 249, he says, of all these powers, the greatest was the last, arriving late from a far plane of thought into a packed, irrational world of chance, where all was grossly felt and blindly done. Yet the haphazard seemed the inevitable. Came reason, the squat Godhead artisan, to her narrow house upon a ridge in time. Adept of clear contrivance and design, a pensive face and close and peering eyes, she took her firm and irremovable seat, the strongest, wisest of the troll-like three. Armed with her lens and measuring rod and probe, she looked upon an object universe and the multitudes that in it live and die, and the body of space, and the fleeing soul of time, and took the earth and stars into her hands to try what she could make of these strange things. So now we continue on page 254, 10 lines down. All was precise, rigid, and Sanjay, if you would like to read, you can begin.
579. That sleep unused in matter's ignorant trance. All was precise, rigid, indubitable. How many lines?
Yeah, just continue.
Oh.
I'll tell you to stop.
But when on matter's rock of ages blazed, a whole stood up firm and clear-cut and safe. All staggered back into a sea of doubt. This solid scheme, matted in endless flux. She had met the formless power, inventor of forms. Suddenly she stumbled upon things unseen, a lightning from the undiscovered truth. startled her eyes with its perplexing glare and dug a gulf between the real and known, till all her knowledge seemed an ignorance. Once more the world was made a wonder web, a magic process in a magical space. An unintelligible, miraculous depth whose source is lost in the ineffable. Once more we face the blank, unknowable. In a crash of values, in a huge boom crack, in the sputter and scatter of her breaking world, she lost her clear, conserved, constructed world.
Thank you. We'll pause there. So perhaps I should have introduced this passage a little more. He's describing here mind as it is at our current state of development in humanity, where we've discovered many of the laws underlying nature. Science has really discovered how things work, the various processes underlying matter. It tries to some extent with also life, understanding those processes, and even of human society. But it's all based on a materialistic view of existence, where matter is the fundamental principle underlying all things. So all things are just a process of material forces, unconscious material forces, even operating according to laws of chance. And the mind has come to a point where it could understand the physical world in great detail, but then all of a sudden it discovered quantum mechanics and that the world isn't physical in the sense that we perceive it with our eyes and our sense of touch, that actually it's made of this kind of dance of material forces, of very subatomic particles, mainly consisting of empty space. And so all of its discoveries up until that point, those discoveries now maybe a century old, all of those understandings of the world suddenly crashed. It was found that, no, matter is not the way we thought it was. Things are not the way we thought. So everything kind of has to be rediscovered again. And that's what he's describing here. So, when on matter's rock of ages based, a whole stood up firm and clear-cut and safe, all staggered back into a sea of doubt. So all the laws that they had understood before suddenly melted. She had met the formless power, inventor of forms. Suddenly she stumbled upon things unseen. A lightning from the undiscovered truth startled her eyes with its perplexing glare and dug a gulf between the real and known. Suddenly it became apparent that what we knew was not real. This matter that we sense is not real in a sense.
The known here represents the false.
Huh? The known?
Dug a gulf between the real and the known. The known is the material experience. The false.
The known is what the mind had constructed about it. Till all her knowledge seemed in ignorance. Once more the world was made a wonder web. These laws of relativity, things like that, it seems now the world depends on from where you're perceiving it. It changes. If you're on a train, it looks one way, but if you're looking at the train from outside, standing next to the tracks, the train speeding by, everything is different. Even time changes. So, in the crash of values, in a huge doom crack, in the sputter and scatter of her breaking work, she lost her clear, conserved, constructed world. So we continue. Helmut, would you like to?
A quantum dance remaining, a spore of chance, the energies depends tripping world. A ceaseless in the unbounded void, invented forms without a thought or aim. Necessity and cause were shapeless ghosts. Matter was an incident in being's flow, law but a clockwork habit of blind force. Ideals, ethics, systems had no base and soon collapsed or without sanction. All grew a chaos, a heave and clash and strife. Ideas warring and fears leaped upon life. A hard compression held down anarchy, and liberty was only a phantom's name. Creation and destruction waltzed in arm on the bosom of a torn and quaking world. All reeled into a world of Kali's dance. Thus tumbled, sinking, sprawling in the void, clutching for props, a soil on which to stand, She only saw a thin atomic vase, a rare point, sparse substrate in the universe, on which floats a solid world's phenomenal face.
Thank you. So Sri Aurobindo is describing, in general terms, this new view of existence based on the new science, based on quantum mechanics, relativity, these kinds of discoveries. So now the world, instead of being built of material, solid things, it's a quantum dance, a sprawl of chance, in energy's stupendous tripping whirl, a ceaseless motion in the unbounded void. So that's the new view of our existence. Matter was an incident in being's flow. Law but a clockwork habit of blind force. Ideals, ethics, systems had no base and soon collapsed or without sanction lived. So we see also that these discoveries had social implications for how we view our life and our systems of government and our institutions. They no longer had a solid base anymore. All the values that we had collapsed. All grew a chaos, a heave and clash and strife. All just became this motion of inconscient energy.
Larry, do you have any idea how Aurobindo got to quantum theory so early on before it even was popularly known?
Well, I think probably the earliest discoveries had been made. I'm not sure. I mean, like Einstein's theory of special relativity and, these things had happened. They had built the atom bomb in the 1940s, right? So some of these discoveries were already there. He was writing up until 1950, this poem. So, but he was apparently quite aware of those discoveries, even perhaps before most people did. Well, he also...
They are yogis, they know things, and this quantum theory that science is, he has written in one of his writings that Vedic science already knew about the nuclear energy and the particles and many forms of systems that, and he said it will be found later on. And this Pavitra Rao was a scientist who became a Sadhak and decided to discover the scientific chemicals and theories. He knew about the nuclear reaction, how it could produce the mother protein. You know when I know it will be quiet. So they were there for, they know, they have the knowledge. It's not that they have
Yeah, they definitely had a deeper knowledge of things, and Sri Aurobindo, sure, he could look into the future and see. Not only does he know about the discoveries in themselves, but as we see here, he's really describing also the implications of these discoveries for the society and the world, and how it's affecting things. So we continue, you can continue reading.
The hard compression held on anarchy and liberty was only sentence made. Was this a result of this chaos, this growing chaos?
Well, I think that's what he's implying, yes. I mean, the world also was in an upheaval during this period. We had the First World War and then the Second World War, and the whole social structures, political structures of the world were being reformulated, were being thrown out, were being fought over. So all grew a chaos, a heave, a clash, and strife. I mean, this was also going on during this period. I don't know, any physicists, when Einstein made his discoveries, his first discoveries like of theory of special relativity, I think already maybe in the 20s or 30s, I think, something like that.
It was also that all these scientific people, researchers, they said that their knowledge came by inspiration, not by their real scientific work.
Okay, we continue. So alone, a process.
Alone, a process of events was there, and nature's plastic and protein change, and strong by death to slay or to create, the riven invisible atom's omnipotent force. One chance remained, that here might be a power to liberate man from the old inadequate means, and leave him sovereign of the earthly scene. For reason then might grasp the original force, to drive her car upon the roads of time. All then might serve the need of the thinking race. An absolute state found orders absolute, to a standardized perfection cut all things. In society build a just exact machine, then science and reason, careless of the soul, could iron out a tranquil, uniform world. Ionic seekings glut with outward truths, and a single patterned thinking force on mind, inflicting matter's logic on spirit's dreams, a reasonable animal make of man, and a symmetrical fabric of his life.
Thank you. I'm reminded here of some of the early behavioral psychologists, this Watson and B.F. Skinner, who thought that they understood now the laws of human behavior and that they could basically control how people would behave. So Watson said, just, give me a child and I can turn him into anything that you want. I can make him a criminal or a scientist or anything that you want, because I can reinforce his behaviors in such a way that they'll continue, repeat themselves, and grow in a certain direction. So he thought he could shape the behavior. And I can't remember the name of this book, but B.F. Skinner wrote a book about an idealized society. Walden 2, that was it. That it was just exactly almost like what Sri Aurobindo is describing here, a kind of an ideal society, but created by these behavioral scientists that would manipulate the human behaviors to follow a cutout pattern of life and behavior. And they would eliminate crime and all of the ills of society by following these simple laws of reinforcement of behavior to shape behavior in a particular way. Create this kind of cut out patterns of behavior for human beings. It's a kind of amazing book, really. I mean, it's frightening, but also kind of interesting.
They're still trying to do it.
Yeah. Then science and reason, careless of the soul, as they don't believe in any soul, could iron out a tranquil, uniform world. A reasonable animal make of man, and a symmetrical fabric of his life. So we'll continue. Would you like to read?
This would be nature's peak on an obscure grove, the grand result of the long ages' toil, as is evolution crowned, her mission done. So might it be if the spirit fell asleep, man then might rest content and live in peace.
Continue.
Master of nature, who once heard from the slave worked, the world disorder hardened into love. If life's dear heart arose not in revolt, if God living could find no greater plan, but many visages is the cosmic soul. A touch can alter the fixed front of fate. A sudden turn can come, a road appear. A greater mind may see a greater truth. Or we may find when all the rest has failed, hid in ourselves the key of perfect change. Ascending from the soil where creep our days, Earth's consciousness may marry with the sun. Our mortal life ride on the spirit wings. Our fine thought commune with the infinite.
Thank you. We'll pause there. Okay, thank you. Sri Aurobindo gives a kind of a cynical assessment of this attempt of the social scientists to engineer human behavior. And then he suggests what might happen instead. But many-visaged is the cosmic soul. A touch can alter the fixed front of fate. A sudden turn can come, a road appear. A greater mind may see a greater truth. And not only that, but also if life's dire heart arose not in revolt. So the human soul will inevitably revolt to this kind of manipulation by social scientists. It's not going to be content to live within these boundaries set by somebody else. So there are other possibilities. The evolution of humanity is not going to be cut short and forced into some kind of rigid pattern of life cut out by the mind of man, by the human reason. And then, instead of being enforced like this, that the human being's behavior is enforced into certain channels of behavior by science, we may find, when all the rest has failed, hid in ourselves the key of perfect change. We may find within our own being how to become perfect and overcome our limitations and our defects. Earth's consciousness may marry with the sun, our mortal life ride on the spirit's wings, our finite thoughts commune with the infinite. So we may find even within ourselves a new awakening into a spiritual consciousness, no longer limited by all the vital beings' violence and passionate emotions, seekings, desires, and the mind's limited reasonings, but find some kind of bright, new, expanded sense of being, and also a perfection of activity and behavior.
For me, this is two lines which capture the opposite. So might it be if the spirit fell asleep, and the other one, if God within could find no greater plan. So that is the argument mentioned that we have to learn to live from within out.
Right. Yeah, this whole scientific view, it's an imposition from outside. But we have to find our true nature, our true law of living from within. So we continue.
In the bright kingdoms of the rising sun, all is birthed into a power of light. All here deformed guards, there is happy shade. Here all is mixed and marred, there pure and whole. Yet each is a passing step, a moment's phase. Awake to a greater truth beyond her acts. The mediatrix sat and saw her work, and felt the marvel in them and the force, but knew the power behind the face of time. She did the task, obeyed the knowledge given. Her deep heart yearned towards great ideal things, and from the light looked out to wider light. A brilliant hedge drawn round her narrowed her power. Faithful to her limited sphere, she toiled, but knew its highest, widest seeing was a half search. Its mightiest acts a passage or a stage.
Thank you. Sri Aurobindo seems to be describing here the workings of a little bit higher intelligence, maybe something more intuitive, in the bright kingdoms of the rising sun. It's a developing intelligence. All is a birth into a power of light. And it understands that it's still growing and developing. It sees that at its present stage, it doesn't know everything. It doesn't have the adequate power to create its highest dreams and ideals, but yet can work towards them. It knows that there is something more that's coming that it can work towards. It sees that ideal or senses that ideal awake to a greater truth beyond her acts, although it can't fulfill all of those ideals yet. It's awake to their possibility. The mediatrix sat and saw her works and felt the marvel in them and the force, but knew the power behind the face of time. She did the task, obeyed the knowledge given. Her deep heart yearned towards great ideal things. So it's working towards these ideals that it can imagine, intuit, but still it's limited. A brilliant hedge drawn round her narrowed her power. So even though we may become aware of these higher spiritual possibilities within us, yet we don't have the power to realize them, but yet we can work within our limited scope towards those ideals.
What is also interesting that it felt the marvel in them and the force, but knew the power behind the face. So this two abilities to feel the knowledge, but also have the knowledge, the higher knowledge.
Yeah, it may feel the Divine Mother working within us towards those higher ideals. Faithful to her limited sphere, she toiled, but knew its highest, widest seeing was a half search. I think he very much describes our present state, those who are, awakened to these spiritual ideals, working towards them, but still feeling the limitations of our instruments, of our mind, of our will, of our power. We're in touch with those higher ideals. We sense them intuitively, although we can't completely enact them yet in our lives. We know the power working within us, can do it, but is taking its time. Margaret, you continue.
For not by reason was creation made, and not by reason can the truth be seen, which through the veils of thought, the screens of sense, hardly the spirit's vision can descry, dimmed by the imperfection of its means. The real mind is tied to little things. Its sense is but the spirit's outward touch, half waked, in a world of dark inconscience. It feels out for its beings and its forms, like one left fumbling in the ignorant night. In this small mold of infant mind and sense, desire is a child heart's cry, crying for bliss, or reason only a toy's artificer, a rule maker in a strange stumbling game. But she, her dwarf aids, knew whose confident side a bound and prospect took for the far goal.
Thank you. Let's pause. So Sri Aurobindo gives, in a way that, in the first lines, the explanation of why reason cannot solve humanity's problems, its difficulties, or understand even who we are, our true selves, because it is not by reason that this creation has been made. It's been made by a greater intelligence, by a greater power, far beyond the human reason. So the truth cannot even be known by reason. Reason in its very nature cuts up the reality into smaller bits of information that it can deal with and manipulate. So a greater power of mind can work, a power of intuition. Hardly the spirit's vision can descry, can discern or see as if in a long distance. Dimmed by the imperfection of its means, the little mind is tied to little things. So again, he's reminding us we're in the kingdoms and Godheads of the little mind. This is the lower intelligence, but we're now dealing with reason. But this is the highest level of the little mind, which can do amazing things like our science has discovered, but still it's limited. It's tied to little things. Its sense is but the spirit's outward touch. It is only half waked in a world of dark in conscience. This mind is as if waking up in this huge, infinite inconscience of matter. It feels out for its beings and its forms, like one left stumbling in the ignorant night. It's as if like a little child waking up in the middle of the night, all darkness around, and it's just feeling out for different forms, different ways in which to go. It's just fumbling through as best it can. Still surrounded everywhere by darkness, by ignorance. And then desire. Desire is a child heart's cry, crying for bliss. And our reason, only a toy's artificer, only is making toys, little models of our existence, of our world, like little playthings. A rule maker in a strange, stumbling game. But she, and I was trying to figure out who is he referring to? I think the little mind. Her dwarf aids knew. We've had this dwarf trinity of the mind, these different aspects of the lower mind. But she, her dwarf aids knew, whose confident sight a bounded prospect took for the far goal. So these instruments of mind take little possibilities that we see in front as if they're the far goal to which it's aiming. So we can continue. Who next? Grace, you want to read? Okay.
The world she has made is an interim report of a traveller towards the half-found truth in things, moving twixt nescience and nescience. For nothing is known while aught remains concealed. The truth is known only when all is seen. Attracted by the all that is the one, she yearns towards a higher light than hers. Hid by her cults and creeds, she has glimpsed God's face. She knows she has but found a form, a robe, but ever she hopes to see him in her heart and feel the body of his reality. And yet a mask is there and not a brow. Although sometimes two hidden eyes appear, reason cannot tear off that glimmering mask. Her efforts only make it glimmer more. In packets she ties up the indivisible, finding her hands too small to hold fast truth. She breaks up knowledge into alien parts, or peers through cloud wrap for a vanished sun. She sees, not understanding what she has seen, through the locked visages of finite things, the myriad aspects of infinity. One day the face must burn out through the mask.
Thank you. We'll pause. At its heights, even the intellect, the reasoning mind, knows that it doesn't know, that it doesn't have the full knowledge, and that it's unable to actually piece together the true image of reality. It knows that it is making an interim report, kind of a first sketch of the reality with the mind. Or it's a traveler towards the half-found truth in things. It moves towards the truth. It has a sense that there is a truth and that it can achieve a clearer and better picture of it, but it recognizes its limitation. And it's a powerful line, I think, for nothing is known while aught remains concealed. As long as mind doesn't have that complete picture of things, all of its knowledge is subject to doubt, to cancellation. Just like the earlier developments of science and of the world, that picture of the world from Newton and Galileo and all of that, all of a sudden, all of that whole picture crashed. And then a whole new image of the universe came into being. And even from our current image, all of this also may turn out to be an illusion. A new law, the greater mind may find a new truth that supersedes all these supposed laws. So nothing is known until all is known. As long as there is some other secrets that are out there possible, they may supersede whatever knowledge mind has.
There's a question for me. Can we in this level also see the truth? I just remember how the mother said that we have problems. We have to look at all the points and we need to see from a higher level on all the points to find the truth.
Yeah.
But it will be still limited, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, as long as we're in mind, we're always going to have a limited view of our existence and always subject to falsification, that it ends up being a wrong view.
Because it says you try to tie up and make the visible invisible.
So there's this inherent limitation of mind. That's why Sri Aurobindo aimed to go to supermind, to a different type of consciousness that could see both the oneness and the many fused in some way, harmonized, integrated. So mind kind of reaches up towards those levels. There's perhaps no fundamental break between mind and supermind. They blend into each other. One goes through these different stages, these different levels of mind into overmind, which is this transitional stage of consciousness between the two. There it has even a sense of that oneness underlying the many, the divided world that we see, but it's not fully able to bring that greater power of the oneness to change the lower creation.
Can you explain this line? Our ignorance is wisdom's chrysalis.
Yeah, it's just that
One day the face must burn out through a mask. Our ignorance is wisdom's chrysalis.
oh, that's just at the bottom, just one line.
Last line on the page.
Yeah, it suggests that out of our ignorance, this wisdom, the truth knowledge, will open up and, like a butterfly, it will emerge out of this ignorant mind. A greater knowledge will come. The Superman will arise out of man. We're like a chrysalis of the Superman. So we're this kind of encrusted stage of development, still hampered, limited within a cocoon. We can't see everything. But out of that, out of this mind, that greater truth shall emerge.
But before that happens, there is a lot of hidden trial.
Well, there are stages. There are stages of development.
When it reaches this threshold, when the burn has happened, then the surrender happens and then the light comes.
Yeah, but even that surrender is a developing process. You know? I mean, we can surrender at one place, but to surrender in all the parts of your being down to the cells, that's another thing.
I was going to say that in a chrysalis is where metamorphosis and transformation.
Yeah, that's true. That's all.
Developed into something totally different. Like a butterfly and a caterpillar.
So within us too, this transformation can be worked out and is being worked out. Sir, would you like to read?
There is a or hero wears a new knowledge on its way.
I'm not sure where you are. You should start reading at Our Ignorance is Wisdom's Chrysalis.
Its darkness is black, net not of light, hot, dense, and in hand which shines.
He has moved 3 lines ahead.
On the grey road that winds towards the one day, as must born out through the max. Our ignorance is wisdom, vessels. Our hero wears new knowledge on its way. Its darkness is a blackened, not upright, through dense hand in hand with missiles. On the grey road that winds towards the sun, even while her figure humble at the knot which bind them to their strengths, companionship, into the moment of their merit strip, sometimes break pulse of the enlightening air.
Thank you. So Sri Aurobindo is elaborating on that idea of the chrysalis and how the higher knowledge develops out of the ignorance. How even darkness is a blackened knot of light. So it's from light that this darkness of nescience has arisen. It's just this, it's the light, but held back from the surface. So it even operates according to the light. There's a knowledge within inconscient matter that is guiding it. It itself is unaware, it's inconscient. The matter, the particles of matter don't know which way to go, but something guides them to go where they should go. The electron goes to the proton or whatever. Thought dances hand in hand with nescience on the gray road that winds towards the sun. So even in our ignorance, this world is moving towards the light, towards the greater consciousness. And even while her fingers fumble at the knots, our human reason is fumbling, trying to untie all the different riddles of our existence. And even while it does that, sometimes breaks through flashes of the enlightening fire. So even I think Margaret was mentioning earlier, these scientists are maybe working in their laboratory, struggling with some problem, and then some flash of intuition comes and they see the solution that they had been fumbling on. B, would you like to?
Even now, great thoughts are here that walk alone. Armed, they have come with the infallible word in an investiture of intuitive light. That is the sanction from the eyes of God. Announcers of a distant truth, they flame, arriving from the rim of eternity. A fire shall come out of the infinitudes. A greater gnosis shall regard the world, crossing out of some far omniscience on lustrous seas, from the still rapt alone, to illumine the deep heart of self and things. A timeless knowledge, it shall bring to mind its aim of life, to ignorance its close.
Thank you. This is a really powerful passage and culmination of this canto and of the mind. Because I think what he even is, he says, even now. And I think as we read these lines, he's referring to these lines. Even now, great thoughts are here that walk alone. Armed, they have come with the infallible word. He's speaking of himself and what he's saying just now. In an investiture of intuitive light that is a sanction from the eyes of God. And then, he gives then the prophecy for the future. Announcers of a distant truth, they flame, arriving from the rim of eternity. A fire shall come out of the infinitudes. That's the beginning of his prophecy. A greater gnosis shall regard the world, crossing out of some far omniscience on lustrous seas from the still wrapped alone to illumine the deep heart of self and things. A timeless knowledge it shall bring to mind, its aim to life, to ignorance its close. So even it will bring into mind this timeless knowledge. So we see that this mind, as limited as it is still this transition towards supermind. It is the necessary passage through which consciousness has to develop towards the supermind. And then, at its summits, the supermind will come and flood the mind with its knowledge and wisdom. The mind of light, Sri Aurobindo described towards the end of his life, his last writings, I think. This is that mind enlightened by the supermind. Tinaka?
Above, in a high breathless stratosphere, overshadowing the dwarfish trinity, lived aspirants to a limitless beyond, captives of space, walled by the limiting heavens, in the unceasing circuit of the hours, yearning for the straight path of eternity. And from their high station looked down on this world, two sun-gazed demons witnessing all that is. A power to uplift the laggard world, Imperius wrote a huge, high-winged live thought, unwont to treat the firm, unchanging soil. Accustomed to a blue infinity, it planed in sunlit sky and starlit air. It saw afar the unreached immortal's home, and heard afar the voices of the gods. Iconoclast and shatterer of time's forts, overleaping limit and exceeding norm, it lit the thoughts that glow through the centuries and moved to acts of superhuman force. As far as its self-winged airplanes could fly, visiting the future in great brilliant raids, it reconnoitered vistas of dream fate. Apt to conceive, unable to attain, it drew its concept maps and vision plans too large for the architecture of mortal space. Beyond in wideness, where no footing is, an imagist of bodiless ideas, impassive to the cry of life and sense, a pure thought mind surveyed the cosmic act. Archangel of a wide transcending realm, it saw the world from solitary heights, luminous in a remote and empty air.
Thank you. I had commented on this when we read it the first time. It's an interesting passage because it is describing two higher aspects of mind beyond what we have been covering so far in the canto. This dwarf trinity seems to represent the physical mind. It's tied very closely with matter, and it's limited very much by matter and the physical world. It's always looking, in a way, our mind, even at its highest, is always looking towards matter and towards life in the physical world. But beyond, there are still higher levels of mind, which he describes here as a high-winged life thought. So it's beyond this dwarfish trinity of physical mind, mind tied to matter. And that is well, it goes beyond. He says, it's unwont to tread the firm, unchanging soil. It doesn't like being tied to matter or perhaps even taking form within the material world. It's accustomed to a blue infinity. It planed in a sunlit sky and starlit air. It saw afar the unreached immortal's home. It's not limited by matter. It's not hedged in like the physical mind. It can see and wing far beyond and go far above towards the transcendence. It heard afar the voices of the gods. And because it's associated with this life power, it's an iconoclast and shatterer of time's forts, overleaping limit and exceeding norm. It's an aspect of mind that's always pushing towards greater frontiers, to higher realizations. It doesn't like to be tied down like the material mind, physical mind. It's always pushing beyond. So, but here he says, it lit the thoughts that glow through the centuries. So perhaps sometimes it makes its visits here on earth also, and influences a great thinker who opens to it, whose thoughts persist and through many centuries, giving great ideals for the earth. Visiting the future in great brilliant raids, it reconnoitered vistas of dream fate. So it's imagining the higher destiny of existence. But apt to conceive, it's quite able to maybe imagine, but unable to attain. It doesn't have actually that persistence, that will to bring its visions into material form. It's aversive, in a way, to the limitations of matter. It'd rather be in its higher realm of thought, imagination, ideal. It drew its concept maps and vision plans too large for the architecture of mortal space. And then Sri Aurobindo describes yet a higher realm of the mind, a pure thought mind, surveyed the cosmic act, archangel of a white transcending realm. It saw the world from solitary heights, luminous in a remote and empty air. It's a pure thought, a pure vision, surveying the world, looking at the world from this high plane of quiet mind. Okay, we stop there for today.
above in a high, breathless stratosphere, overshadowing the dwarfish trinity, lived aspirants to limitless beyond. Two sun-gazed demons witnessing all that is, a power to uplift the laggard world, imperious, road-hewn, high-winged life sought beyond in wideness where no footing is. A pure thought mind surveyed the cosmic act, archangel of a white transcending ring. It saw the world from solitary heights.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.